Hi there, welcome to Bonsai Stuff Podcast. I'm Scott Martin from Bonsai Matsu. And hasn't summer started with an aggressive hit? Doesn't matter where you are around the country, I think you've felt its sting already. It's been hot, it's been windy, it's been dry. Now there's cool changes coming through down in Melbourne where I'm based. We're talking, I saw snow dusting. It's crazy. There was a week recently where on one day, the Monday, it was freezing. I had the fire going to heat the house, and then by the Thursday it was mid to high 30s. So that's the sort of extremes that we've got to put our bonsai through here in Melbourne, but it's the same everywhere. And I wanted to talk in this episode of the podcast about your system that you're going to use. We're coming up to that beautiful time of the year, summer holidays. It doesn't get any better for me as far as I'm concerned. It's a great time to take your foot off the gas for a little bit. Things tend to quieten down. The amount of work that you've got to do once we get through this hump with black pine work at the moment, which I'll chat about as well in the podcast, of course. But once you get through that hump, it sort of can have a bit of a lull, and it's quite nice. And it's nice to have a break, not be chained to your trees. So it's time to make sure that whatever system it is that you're going to be using, that we test it. And I want to just talk about some things with that as well. But as I said, I want to talk about black pines. If you've got Japanese black pines or red pines and you're in southern part of Australia, then this is a really important time for you. It's decandling. It's where we're a complete removal of that spring growth to stimulate further budding. And I want to talk about what we're doing it for, what we're trying to achieve, steps you've got to take, just a bit of a refresher, a once-a-year refresher, because it is something that you may not do quite frequently. You might not have hundreds of them in your collection. So I thought it would be a nice little prompt to say, hey, listen, this is what we've got to do. And just when you're doing it, focus on these things. Make sure you get this right. Don't forget that. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So your pines can be taking the front and centre stage in your collection as they should, as the beautiful beasts that they are. So let's get into the podcast. When I hear the term summer, a couple of things come into it. The break. Christmas, of course, the cricket, and just being able to put your feet up for a little bit, having not much to do on the agenda for a little bit of time, catching up with the nearest and dearest, just catching up with yourself, and just making sure that you can draw a breath, and knowing that there's another whole year about to come just around the corner, and things all start again. The wheels keep turning. Nothing ever sits still for very long, and with your trees. Like I said, I find this summer dormancy, as the heat kicks in, the trees slow down quite nicely, maybe except for the natives, but a lot of them slow down quite nicely, which means that you can stop, take count of where things are at, look at the plan, see what you've done. Have you achieved it? Have you done what you wanted to do? It's been a long 12 months from when I last set my goals, where I said every tree in my collection want to be working on and improving. And yeah, definitely, it's underway. I've still got more I've got to do, so I've got a busy couple of weeks left for the rest of the year. But things are looking pretty good. So it's a nice time to sit back and just take stock of things. But the trees, they're not going to stop. The trees still need that continual care. So I strongly encourage everybody that I talk to start thinking about what system it is that you're going to be using when you're taking a break, to make sure that your trees can still continue to thrive. The worst thing honestly, the very worst thing that I hear doing what I do, having Bonsai Matsu see and talk with so many different people from so many different parts of the world with so many different experiences. One common thing that I hear about is when people take their foot off the gas and have a little bit of a break, that the system, I won't say the people, but I'll say the system that's put in place fails. And the bonsai that are in the care of these people, or that's being looked after by this system, they suddenly get flogged, and it's a long road back if it is a road back, because normally this is the time of the year when people take often their biggest holidays, or it's when the weather conditions are most extreme. So even a few days off when, Western Sydney's recently been copping 40s. Imagine 2 days with the system failing. I won't say, the lack of water or whatever, but let's just say the system fails that you've put in place over 2 40-degree days. Well, doesn't matter how strong that tree is, it's going to get absolutely walloped. And coming back from it, I'm not sure necessarily that it's a viable thing to expect. A couple of bad days to really allow your tree to continue to thrive. It's going to be one of those things that it's not going to come back from. Honestly, it's not. So looking at it now, we've got, if you are going away over that Christmas period, next 3-4 weeks, whatever it is, get away for New Year's with your mates, your friends, your family, have a few coldies and just really, really relax. Well, now's the time to start thinking about the system. If you are going to get, that family friend, or if you are going to get that friend, or, whoever it is that's going to come in and water your trees, and I hear it all the time, they're great gardeners. They have really nice gardens. Yeah, that's so different to bonsai. That is, a nice garden is not what we have. What we have is little trees in pots, and those little trees in pots are delicate. And watering a tree in a pot is very, very different. If you've had a bonsai for more than about 10 minutes, you'll appreciate that the watering for that bonsai is extremely different. And if you're new to bonsai and you haven't, I'm telling you now, this is the heads up. It is very different. It is so different. So if you are, one of the strongest recommendations that I'll make to people is, if you are going to be leaving your bonsai in someone's care, make sure they've got bonsai. And if they've got bonsai, you don't necessarily need to like the way that they style their trees, because you're not asking them to do anything. All you're asking them to do is give them the care that they need. Have a look at the health of the trees. Have a look at those trees and see if the condition of the trees is something you think, yep, my trees are going to be okay. And it's got to be reciprocated. Put your hand up. If you're out there asking people to look after someone to look after your trees, then, put the offer out there as well to your network, your bonsai network, and say, hey, listen, if anyone's going on break, I'm happy to take your trees and care for them as well. It's the safest thing. There's nothing worse than coming back from a brilliant holiday to dead bonsai and, hand in the air. I can tell you I've been there. I've had an entire collection decimated by the most well-meaning, caring, lovely neighbour that I've ever had in my entire life. Yep, no, mate, no worries, mate. I can look after your trees. Look over the fence. His garden, his veggie garden's beautiful. His lawns are fantastic. Everything's lush. Everything's great. I come back to every one of my trees being crispy brown and dead, and that was only after like a week period over the summer period. It's an intense time where winter's a great time. It's a brilliant time to go away and leave your trees with people like that, because there's very little watering. So underwatering during that winter period, it's probably better for your trees than them flogging them with water continually. But over summer, you've got to err on the side of caution. It's like, if you're thinking they probably need a water, it's getting warm, then they need a water. You're better off doing it a little bit more than a little bit less by far over that hot period. So what the point of the podcast is to say, whatever the system is, if it is relying on a person, and they're the most unreliable system that I've ever come across when it comes to bonsai care, if it is relying on a person, then test the system. Get them over. Take your trees over there. Get the feel of it. This is how I water. Or get some videos. Do videos on your phone and say, all right, so I'm just telling you now, the temperature today is 28 degrees. Yeah, it's 10 o'clock. I watered my trees like this. This is how I water. I go over them once, then I go to the next tree, the next tree, the next tree. Then I come back to that first tree and I give it a second go. And I go over the next one, the next one, the next one. And then I come back and I've waited a few more minutes. Let that water really permeate and soak into the tree. Then I come back and do it again. And if it's a really hot environment, I'm going to be going over the foliage as well, just to cool the tree down a little bit. But that's how I'd water the tree. All right, so the wind's picked up today. It's that mid-20s. It's not really hot, like you're not cooking, but it's probably about 2 o'clock. And look, the pots are dry, so I'm going to go and give them another go. Maybe not as thorough as the first watering, but I'm just going to cool them down a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of water onto the pot, so it might be a single water on those trees, a little bit over the foliage, leave them go. All right, so now I come and I check the trees, and it's 6 o'clock at night, and it's got hot. In Melbourne, we find that the temperature sort of picks up around the 3 o'clock mark every day, and it stays really hot. That strong westerly sun, and the heat kicks in till about sort of 6 o'clock. So for us, that watering late in the day, I find, sort of helps them bed them down a little bit. So it might be that you show them a video and say, look, it's really hot. It's got to the peak of temperature of the day. That wind has been persistent. Things have after another 3 or 4 hours, the pots have dried out again. This is the difference between a veggie garden and a tree in a pot. And that pot, put your hand on the side of the pot and show them and say, that pot's scorching hot now. So I've got to cool the environment, and I've got to put some water back into that tree. Water the first tree, second, third, fourth. Come back, do the first, second, third, fourth, and do it over and over, and just show them and say, really what I want is, and tilt the pot back, I want to see water coming out of the bottom of the hole at this time of the day. And I want to cool that environment down, touch the side of the pot and say, now it's actually not scorching hot. It's cooled everything down for the tree. That's how I do it. Give them the video, run them through it and say, this is what I can do. And then they might go, well, you know what? I leave for work at 3 in the morning and I don't get home until 9 p.m. at night and no one's here during the day. Will they be okay? No, they won't. They won't. Just having your trees safe is very different from having them looked after. So that's where this testing of the system now, finding this stuff out now, is going to be far better for you because you've still got time to make alternative arrangements. It's far better to find out now than at the end of your holiday where you come back and go, wow, look at that. That's been destroyed. And they've done their best. They've worked within the parameters that they've got. They've done everything that they possibly could. First thing in the morning, they get up and water. Last thing at night, they go out and water. They check the trees. They give them a cuddle, make sure everything's okay. But that's not enough. That's not what your trees are going to need during the peak of summer. So you've got to test it. Likewise, if you're going to be using an automated system that you've put in, please don't leave it till the day before you go away to turn it on. Now's the time. Like for me, I run my watering system continually now because I want a solid sleep. When I'm away, I want to put my head on that pillow knowing that my trees are well looked after. When I'm with my friends and I'm jumping around and I'm celebrating New Year's Eve and I'm enjoying my time, last thing I want is that chill down my spine thinking, geez, I hope that system's working. I hope that watering system hasn't broken down. I hope my trees are going to be okay. I want to look at it, before I crack my first beer of New Year's Eve, I want to put on the cameras, check the watering system, look at them, look around the yard and go, you know what, that's fantastic. Well done. That's awesome. Even if you're having a party inside the house and you take your eye off the ball, just whatever system it is you're going to be using, just make sure that it's thoroughly tested. I don't know how many times on my system or other systems that heads get blocked or, bits of plastic break off with the heat. Things deteriorate. They're not designed to live forever. So being on the ball early allows you to take the pressure off it. It allows you to correct, fix, monitor, massage, make sure that things are working beautifully. Where it was set up perfectly last year, the bench composition may have changed. Trees may have got bigger. Trees may have moved. You might have different trees in different parts of the yard to get different amounts of sunlight. Whatever it is, you need to make sure that what was perfect last year may not be right this year. So just spend the time now because the very honestly, hand on heart, the very last thing that I want is another message from someone saying my trees are cooked. What can I do? Well, how do I come back from this? Because, then all it does, it just makes me feel terrible because there's very little, very, very little that can be done. So doing that little bit of work now, no matter what the system is, if it's your parents, if it's your partner, if it's your neighbour, if it's your friends, if it's someone in the bonsai world, if it's, you're trusting someone who charges for the service, bonsai professional, whoever it is, have a look, have a talk to them, get ready for it. Hey, look, I've got these trees that are going to be, this size. Are you sure you got room for them? When you say you're going to come to my house and water, what does that look like? When will you be able to do that? What if it's a really hot day? What if it's 45 degrees, which, heaven forbid, it may well be in certain parts of the country. It's it could be absolutely stinking. I don't know how many reports I've seen about the long, hot, dry summer that we're in for, and being ready for it now is going to allow you to get a good 8 hours sleep when you're away. Whatever it is, test it, measure it, monitor it, make sure that it's going to be okay, and secure those trees. Make sure that they're going to get what they want. It's the most damaging time of the year that you've just got to be ready for. All right, let's move on from that that slightly scary thought of leaving your trees during 45 degrees and move on to possibly one of my favourite species, Japanese black pines. When I say black pines, I mean red pines as well, but Japanese black pines, for me, I don't know, they warm the cockles of my heart. I love them, I really do. And I've travelled around this beautiful country of ours, and I've seen, over in the west, magnificent black pines. I've seen magnificent black pines in South Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, brilliant bonsai. I've seen them in Tassie. I've been up to as far north as Cairns and seen magnificent black pines there. So they're a versatile species that thrive in our climate. They do exceptionally well when they're given the right care based on your environment. They do exceptionally well. And for majority of people in the southern part of Australia, this is a really important time. This is where the term Japanese black pine decandling gets thrown about quite a lot by people like me, by anyone that's got nice black pines. The use of that technique of decandling is super important when you're looking at refinement of your trees, when you're looking at the division, the development, the ramification of a black pine. Decandling is absolutely essential, and it's for anyone new to black pines. It's hard to get your head around because you've got all this magnificent, beautiful spring foliage, lush as. Like last year's needles are starting to get a real olivey dark colour. They might be a bit discoloured on the tips. There could be some, bandings, could be some spider mite damage. It could be anything. But those old needles, they look pretty average. They've been there for a while. They're 12 months old now, and they've been through extremes. They've been through harsh weather, hot, cold, and they're starting to show their age. They're a bit like me. They're really starting to show their age now. But that spring growth that comes out, and this is where I wish we were a bit more like trees. That beautiful spring growth that comes out every year looks fantastic. It's nice and lush. It's fresh. It's rejuvenation. It just looks great. So the process of decandling is we go in and we cut off all that beautiful growth. So we go from this tree that looks magnificent to something that looks like a pluck chook with all these old, it looks like a 75-year-old man with not much hair on, and the needles are dated. They're sort of spread out. They're fanned out. So you've gone from something that looks magnificent to something that looks dishevelled again. And it's like, well, are you sure this is the right thing to do? And a lot of what I do with a lot of different people, I use the word trust me. I promise I won't lead you down the garden path. I will not do the wrong thing by your bonsai or by you. I will be honest as I possibly can. If I say I do something, then yeah, I know what, I do it. If I say don't do it, then it's not something I sneak away and do behind curtains and keep the magic to myself. I'm very much an open book when it comes to this bonsai stuff. So I I strongly encourage you to take heed if you're new and trust me with it. There's lots of videos out there. I've got videos myself on the YouTube channel, and there's lots of different techniques for it. But anyway, the timing for this decandling process is about now. For me, it may vary. Like it depending on where you are, of course. It's all about working out, as I've said in earlier podcasts, about the stop point, working backwards, saying how long does a tree need to go from having all that new foliage cut off to activating the dormant buds, to allowing those new buds to grow, develop, and then push new needles before it gets to the winter dormancy. That's the key, right? It's what we get out of it is beautiful, which I'll talk about, but the timing for it, it's all about that how much time have I got left in this growing period before the tree goes to sleep. Pure and simple. There's nothing magical about it. It's not like you boil a brew and and drop a bit of oil in there and see which way the oil flows and go, okay, well this year I'm going to be doing my decandling on the 6th of December, or this year I'm going to be doing on the 15th of December. It's got to do with that end point, right? And what the temperature is going to be like between making these cuts until the other end, because will if there's extreme heat, will that affect the tree? A lot of things that you've got to look into your crystal ball and say, well, what's it going to be like? And anyway, for me, based here comes the proviso, the little asterisk again in the corner. Based on everything that I've learnt and my experience in my yard, for me specifically. This doesn't apply to everybody, of course, but for me, I've found from the start of December through until about the 20th of December is my timing for it. All right, so as soon as 1st of December gets here, I'm off and racing. And, very simply, the longer you give the trees to regrow, the bigger the needles are going to be, the longer the internodes. Very simple. The less time you give them to grow, the shorter the needles, the shorter the internodes. So, on that very simple platform, the bigger trees get done first because I want all my needles to be in proportion to support the tree. But also, my aim is when I take a photo of the tree and I've got no reference points, I do not want to know what size that tree is. I want it to be a surprise whether it's 10 centimetres or it's 1.5 metres. So, all of my needles I want in proportion based on the size of the pine. Simple, right? So 1st of December, biggest trees. 20th of December, the small ones. That's the window I work with. Where you are, 1st of December might be 15th of November. So you might start a lot earlier, or it might be the 15th of December is your start time. It depends on your growing period. This is where it changes. It's all very. It's very different. I was going to say it's loose, but it's not loose. It's very different based on your local environment and where you are. And like I said, you've got to become the local expert based on what's best for you. Trial and error, photographs, measuring, monitoring, recording, seeing what works for you. Not always taking advice from nufties like me saying, "Oh, you've got to be doing it right now." It's like, well, do you really? Like, what's the best result for you and for your trees? So all I do is I provide a stimulus to say about now is the time that you should be seriously contemplating this decandling process. So the technique for it is to go through and, I very simply use tweezers and a really sharp pair of scissors. And the technique is to have my tweezers in my right hand, because that's my dominant hand, and my scissors in the left hand. Okay, so my non-dominant hand has my scissors. All I have to do with my left hand is open and close, cut. My right hand can manipulate the spring candle. I can grab it with my tweezers and I can twist it so I can make a square cut. I don't want to be cutting on the angle. I don't want to be cutting, too high. I don't want to be doing anything wrong. So I simply hold my scissors closed, go in, touch the candle with the tweezers, manipulate the candle so I'm going to get a square cut, then open the scissors, slide it just past the candle, and then cut. If you slide your scissors through too far, which is really common when you first do it, or the first tree that you're decandling, if you slide your scissors through too far with your non-dominant hand, which is a little less, supportive and controllable, you'll go through and you'll cut needles on the other side of the candle, last year's needles. So if you're doing that, just be careful. Perfect the technique. Make sure that you're getting it absolutely spot on every time. It's not a race. You don't have to decandle the tree within 3 minutes. Take 3 hours, but get it right. And especially if you've only got a few black pines in your collection, it's an enjoyable task. It really is. I love it. Because what we get out of it is so much. And I find that if you can just get the technique right, and bonsai is all about the 1%ers. It's all about the little difference. If you cut it too high on one side, like let's say your scissors, you're not cutting perpendicular, not cutting square to the candle. If you cut it on an angle and one side's slightly higher than the other, what can happen is the dieback on that candle means that one side that's lower may activate the buds on that side earlier, and on the other side they might be a bit slower. So therefore, the growth that you're going to get from that location, some are going to be too big or stronger, and some are going to be weaker than the others. So it makes a big difference to get it perfect. Now with the height of the green stem, so the spring candle has that green stem on it. All right, that's the way you can easily identify what the spring candle is. It should have a green base on it with nice new needles. So work from the tip backwards. You should find that you've got a nice little white bud in the middle, lots of nice new green needles. Then below that will be a green stem. Then you get to the darker olive last year's needles, and below them should be a brown-ish cream-coloured stem. All right. So what we're looking at doing is we're looking at removing completely that spring candle. So the green stem, that's what we need to get rid of. So at the very base of that, we come in and we cut it off. Now the process is that I use, and everything that I talk about in this podcast is about what I do. What you do is different, or what other people do I can't talk about. But what I do is I look at removing that stem completely, not leaving a stub. When we prune deciduous, or you're going past a leaf on a native or whatever it is, you might leave a little bit of a stub for dieback. With decandling, we don't do that. I put my scissors in, so the points are closed. They get in there through the needles. If you go in with your scissors open, you'll be catching a lot of needles on the way in. So keep your scissors closed, go in, touch the green stem, open the scissors, slide past the stem, and then push down with your scissors. I physically push down, so I'm getting as close to the base of that new spring candle as I possibly can, and then I cut. All right. If you leave a stub, so let's say you decandle today, and you leave a bit of a stub. It's like a fuse. All right. That fuse has got to dry out and die before the buds at the base will activate. By removing it completely, it means that today those buds get told, wake up, you've got to go. There's no candle here. We need to do something, all right? It's a defense mechanism. Get in there, start growing, grow those new needles, because without new needles on a pine tree, they're stuffed. They are completely stuffed. The needles only last 2 years, so by removing this spring candle, the tree goes, well, I've got to do something, activate those dormant buds that are sitting there. Now's the go time. Let's start doing it. If you leave a fuse, you've decandled today, that fuse might take 4, 5, 6 days to dry out. So really, you decandle today, but it's not starting for another week. So therefore, that growing window that we talked about has been shortened by a week, which is significant in the life of pines. Like I said, I use the 1st of December for my big trees, and I use the 20th of December. So within a 2-3 week window, the needle size that's left to grow can vary significantly over that period. So it does make a difference. If you decandle, say today, then take photos of that tree, or look at it when it gets to the heart of winter next year, when the tree stopped its growing period and it's gone dormant. Have a look at it and make a note and say, okay, that tree was 30 centimeters tall. I decandled on this date, and the needles that I've got that have grown from it are this long. You'll find that as trees get older and more mature, everything sort of starts to stabilize. If it's a young tree that you're measuring that's only got a few branches, then really it's not something that it's going to give you an accurate reading. But as your tree gets more and more branches and starts to look really full, you can then start to pinpoint the exact time that you should be decandling based on expected results that you're going to get from previous years. All right, of course, the weather has an impact on it. So does your fertilizing in the build up to it. But give or take, everything being perfect, everything being correct in the lead up to it, then you can sort of get a finer window for exactly what's going to work for you in your yard. So it's that complete removal. Common thing I see is to leave a little bit of a stub, which will come back and start to bite you somewhere. Because if you do cut some flush and some with a stub, then you'll find that the growth will be out of balance. Some will start today, some will start next week, and then the length of needles that you've got, the size of the buds, the strength, where the tree's going to allocate resources. The tree down the track next spring is definitely going to be pushing resources to the stronger buds and less to the weaker buds. So trying to get that set of scales balanced, with the strong and the weak on pines, it's continued with everything that we do. And this decandling consistently across the tree means that the growing period starts exactly the same for all those all the different branches, which means, give or take, of course, there are going to be stronger areas, but give or take, it should be pretty consistent around the entire tree. So what we're wanting to do with decandling, it's a refinement technique. It's for those trees that we're really looking to develop into certain areas. It might be that you pick on a young tree that you're still developing. It might be the apex that you're decandling, the lower branches that you're still trying to thicken. You don't decandle something you're trying to thicken. We let it grow. All right, we don't come in and decandle on a sacrifice branch, because we want that sacrifice branch to continue to grow. So you're only really doing it where you want division. So you want one branch to turn into two. Decandling allows us to do that. It reduces the internode length because we're reducing that growing period for the tree. So therefore, the candles physically don't have as long to grow. So they're going to be a lot shorter. The needles, we're cutting off all the new spring growth, so we're removing all those spring needles. So therefore, the new ones that are growing, we're giving less time to grow, which means the needles naturally get shorter without being cut, without being manipulated. So you've built, this is why I love decandling, you've built the tree's strength up with a lot of feeding. You've gone in there supercharging this tree. Then we come in and we cut off all that growth. The tree regrows and we get beautiful new needles that are lush and vibrant and very healthy. So the old school technique of starvation and holding back and not giving enough resources for the tree to grow the needles and putting it on the verge of death, that's out the window with decandling. Decandling, we can give it lots of water when it needs it. We can feed it when we need to feed it. We can do all these different things and really supercharge the tree, go and cut off all the growth and then get all this beautiful regrowth that's just perfect for the size of the tree. And we get to, this is the part that blows my mind, we get to pinpoint the time that's done it, and we get to say what size needles that tree is going to have based on our timing for doing these tasks. How is that not a perfect bonsai? How is black pine not perfect for what we do? They're not complex. We're only working on them a couple of times a year. We do this, then you don't touch it. Right? That's the next important part. Is once you've decandled, just let the buds grow. Do not remove anything between now and next autumn or winter. Let the tree allocate its resources to the big ones, to the small ones, to the weak ones, whatever it's going to be. Let the tree roll the dice and do what it's going to do. Then we go in, once the tree has decided what's going to be a strong candle, what's going to be a weak one, and what's going to be the medium ones, then we go through based on our strategy for that area of the tree, and we go, okay, well, yes, I need a strong one in this area. I'll keep that one and that one. No, I don't want strong ones in that area. I want a weak one, so I'll pick those two. All right, in this area, I just want the medium ones. I'll pick the medium ones. If you go stuffing around with the new buds that start to grow post-decandling, and you start making decisions before the tree's finished allocating resources to those areas, and you knock off a super large one, say, that's too big, I'm cutting it off, then the resources that were going to that very strong area suddenly go to the weaker areas, and then they get too big. So you start changing the way the tree's allocating resources. So just let it happen. Let it be. What will be after you've decandled. It's really important to remove the fertilizer as well at this point. You've done the feeding up to this point. You've got the tree as healthy as you possibly can. You've built its strength up to a certain point and gone, yep, that's fantastic. Now take away the fertilizer. Any nitrogen that you're going to be supplying in excess to what the tree is going to have is going to result with longer needles, longer internodes. Right? We don't want that. We've worked so hard to try and get the refinement to reduce the internode length, to reduce the needle mass. And this is for trees in that refinement stage. This is not trees in development. If you're developing trees and you're not caring about internode length or needles, then maybe decandling is not a task that you'd be doing anyway. But you can fertilise. But fertilising during the peak of summer really for me is sort of just a waste of time because it's too hot and what will be will be. So I would strongly suggest that if you're decandling, take away that fertiliser, let the tree do what it's going to do, and expect it to push out buds maybe give it a month, 6 weeks. Don't look at it every day. Don't panic. Just let it do its thing. I've been out there looking every day going, oh, buds haven't formed. Oh, buds haven't formed. What have I done? What have I done? This tree's going to go backwards. I've cut off all this beautiful growth and decandling's not going to work for me. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, there they are. They're starting to come out. So give it time. Don't. It's like watching a kettle boil. It takes a lot longer. Just leave them be. Let them do their thing. You may need to water them slightly less, although if you're going into hot weather, don't use that as an excuse not to water the trees. But you might find that it's like defoliation, when you take away a lot of that leaf mass, needle mass, you might find that they take up less water as a result, maybe for a couple of days, but then things will start going again. So don't use it as an excuse to say, you said water less, so I've only watered them once in 2.5 weeks or something like that. That's not the aim. It might be that instead of watering them twice in a day, it might be once, something like that. Or instead of 3 times a day, it might be twice. So the definite things with this is do not touch those buds. Do not work on them now after you've decandled until the dormancy period. That's the key. And if you do have doubts, if you do have concerns, if you are in any way slightly miffed as to the strength of the tree, and you're looking at it going, geez, I'm not sure. I heard this podcast the other day. They said, now's decandling time. All right, I'll bring the tree into the garage, into the workshop, into the kitchen bench. I'll get the tools out. I'll have a look at it. Yep, okay, decandling time. I know what to do. I know I've got to cut off that spring candle right there. You look at the tree. If you're in doubt, if there's any doubt whatsoever as to the strength of the tree, doing this decandling will flog it. It will set it back a million miles. You'll most likely have it where it won't produce the buds that we need, that it won't do the division, that it'll be a massive failure. It'll set the tree back a lot. And like I said, needles on pines only last a couple of years. So if you go and cut off all those new ones that are there, and it's then relying on those old solar panels, the old needles, to do its job, that are highly inefficient now, they're damaged, they're nowhere near as strong, and you're expecting it to back bud, yeah, I'm not sure that I would have decandled in the first place. So just make a judgment call. Number one, as I've always said, number one thing you do before you pick up your scissors, before you even bring the tree off the bench, health assessment. How's this thing look? Is it gonna thrive from what I'm going to do, or am I going to set this thing back? If you're going to set it back, then hit the pause button. Reach out. Just check with your bonsai network. Hey, what do you think? How's it look? And you will know. You'll know before you even hit send on that message. You'll look at it compared to other black pines or other images that you've seen, and you'll go, you know what? It probably doesn't look as good as what it could. And it's hard because last year's needles might be twisted and may have had a problem, a couple of years ago when they were growing. Could be long, could be really shaggy, but the new spring growth that's there is beautiful. Like, it's really sharp, fine needles, really strong, solid stems. You're looking around the tree going, it's just popped from everywhere. So don't be distracted as to what the tree was like years ago. Look at it now, because you may have fixed a problem, but those old needles are residue of when there was a problem. So your health assessment would be, look at the new stuff. How's the tree looking now? Is it vibrant? Are the buds the same size right the way around the whole tree? You might find that the very lowest branch that you're looking at might be weak as, and you look at it and go, the top's great. Oh, this looks awesome. But there's really some branches on this thing that are, there's, when the new candles come out, there might be 2 or 3 pairs of needles compared to at the top where there's 15, 20 pairs of needles. So you look at it and go, well, part of it's strong, part of it's not. All right, so let's decandle the strong part. Let's push that back, but let's leave that lower part alone. When we decandle, we're going to take strength and resources away from the strong area, and we're going to divert resources within the tree to those lower areas. So let's do that. Let's use decandling as a way of shuffling shuffling it around so the weaker areas of the tree can get what they need to continue to thrive. That would be my approach. So that health assessment, before you do anything, make sure that you can safely tick it off and say, you know what, the tree's going to love this. The tree's going to go forward, and next year I'm going to be looking at it. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. So the decandling technique is very specific. Take your time and get it right. It's wrap-up time for the podcast. Thanks very much for listening in. Summer's here. Become a local forecast expert. Really get on top of those apps, the news, whatever. Get a trusted resource for your area, and really start to look at it long term, and not just today, not just tomorrow, but try and see if you can get some kind of forecasting thing where you're looking about a week out. So if there is extremes hitting, which are becoming far more common and far stronger, far more frequent, then you can sort of plan for it. If you know that tomorrow is going to be 45 degrees, then today get in there, start preloading, pre-watering. If there's a delicate variety, if you've got only a few trees, then look at where you're going to shuffle those trees to. Are they going to come in? If you've got shade cloth, look at it and say, geez, tomorrow's stuff. Don't sit down 9:30 at night getting ready to hop into bed and look at it and suddenly go, oh, wow, actually tomorrow's 45, I better go and put that shade cloth up because I'm not going to be home in the morning, or whatever it is. Just start planning for what's going to be happening in the future. Of course it changes. It's never 100%, but at least it'll give you a good forecast for what you've got to do. That's my plan anyway. Test the system. Becoming a bonsai care trainer. Seriously, people do the best they possibly can. And I don't begrudge non-bonsai people when they do it. I get angry at myself because that all that hard work, everything that's been done with those trees, suddenly is gone in the blink of an eye for a long weekend, for a couple of days away, and being ready for it at this point, being ready to start getting things ready over the next few weeks, it's great. Even if if you're going to have someone looking after 10 trees, drop one or two around to them now. Just say, hey, have a look at this. Can you just start looking after these now for a couple of weeks? Get to know them and send them messages. Hey, just let me know I've watered my trees now. They can water the ones they're looking after. Hey, I'm watering again now. Just get them used to how the cycle works and what they've got to do. Hey, tomorrow's 45. What are you going to do with the trees? Where are you going to put them? Can you, I know the area that you've got's exposed. It's next to a brick wall, whatever. They need to be away from that brick wall. They need to be under a tree in the garden. And whatever it is, just start with maybe a couple of trees and just build them up a little bit. So when it does happen, it's a lot better. And get them a gift before you go away. Give them something as a reward to say thanks very much. I really appreciate everything. Here you go. Here's a whatever. Don't give them a bonsai. They'll probably never want one again after all the instructions for how to look after them and how to water this little tree in a pot. They'll be burdened with it instead of you. If you have got a watering system too, just check for failure. Just stay on top of it. Again, it's very common to hear what's going on. And if you have pines, it's a really good time of year. If you are nervous about it, that's not bad. But once you see the results of what's going to happen, you'll go a million miles ahead. Thank you very much to subscribers. I really appreciate new ones coming on board all the time. It really means a lot, and it makes me feel great. Makes me feel that bonsai community out there is very loving and very appreciative, and it's lovely. It really is. So get ready for this warmth of summer. Only a little bit into it, and it seems to be steamrolling its way through as they're forecast. Long, hot, dry, disastrous extremes. So let's make sure our trees are ready to go for it and that you're ready for it. Thanks for listening in. See you next week, and as always, until next time, happy bonsai.